Waiting for.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on our Little Italy of Los Angeles podcast. Joining me today is musician, producer, Frank Stallone. I'm so honored to have you here. Thanks for being with us, Frank.
Well, thank you, Deborah. It's been it's a pleasure. Little Italy of Los Angeles. That's a new one on me.
I know, right? We talked about that on the phone. You're like, hey,
Yeah.
wait a minute, what? Where? And now that you know about it, we've got to have you come down and maybe perform down there or whatever, which is very exciting.
Absolutely.
Now, look, you're here to talk about all things Frank Stallone, your career, growing up Italian, that brother of yours, right? And your latest film, which is called Stallone, Frank, that is, right? We're talking Stallone, Frank, that is. I love the name of that. It's terrific. Let's start a little bit. Gosh, where do we go? Do we start at the beginning with you? You've got such a varied career. Let's talk about this film first. Mm-hmm. Why did you decide to make a documentary style Stallone, Frank, that is?
I didn't decide. I was approached by two young filmmakers, and they wanted to, they came up to me and said, hey, we should do a documentary on you. And I was in shock. I figured, me? Really, of all people, you know, after all these years. And I said, well, I took it with a grain of salt, and then I thought about it, and then I said, okay, why not? See what happens. And then, they used all my contacts, all the people I've known over the many years that are in the movie, and relatives and friends, and they just went out on their own. I wasn't at any of the interviews. I didn't want to be. I just wanted to be honest and pure and whatever they say. So when I saw it for the first time, I was seeing it just like everyone else for the first time. I didn't know what anyone was going to say or do or, or think. And that's what kind of made it exciting. It was very organically done. It wasn't, it wasn't like, okay, let's make Frank look really good. Whatever. If I didn't look good, I didn't look good. If I did, there's some people in the movie that don't think I'm that great, but that's okay. I don't mean great musician, just as a person. Yeah.
I loved it because it really traced the very beginning of your career and the beginning of your life, right? We talked with your brother, Sylvester Stallone. You got to put him in there, right? Yeah. You talk with some of the musicians you've worked with. You talk with friends, right? Yeah. Joe Montagno, who's a friend of our show and a friend.
Great guy.
Richie Sambora, who I know is a friend of yours.
Danny
Aiello. Oh my gosh, do we love him?
Oh, Frankie Avalon.
Frankie Avalon. That's right. Yeah. I mean, it was just... It's like a going down memory lane, but also we get to learn about you, Frank, and some of the great hits that you've had in your life and what it's like sort of being the brother of a very, very famous man. Yeah. So why don't we start a little bit in the beginning, right? You're Sylvester's younger brother, or I should say he is your older brother.
Right.
You grew up pretty much in Philadelphia, right? Tell me about that.
Mostly, yeah. I mean, my early part of my life, until about 7 years old, was in Maryland, Silver Spring, Maryland. My mother and father got divorced, and she married a guy from Philadelphia. So after some court cases and stuff, I ended up going to Philadelphia. Sly ended up staying in Maryland, and then he moved up to Philadelphia. And then he went back and forth. And so I would say Philadelphia was my home from about 7 to 18, maybe something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, Dad was from where?
My father was from Bari, Italy, from Gioia del Colle. Yeah, Puglia.
And he came. Yeah. And he came here. Did he speak English? And what was it like having a dad who was an immigrant from Italy? I know that was not easy.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it. I mean, he did not speak English when he came here. Mm-hmm. And when I would get together with my relatives, they all had broken accents. All of them. My grandparents, my aunts, my uncles. My father, he spoke English. He had sometimes an accent, but he couldn't speak English when he came here. And then he served in World War II. And, in those days, the kids, most of us did not speak Italian because they didn't want us to speak Italian. They want to speak English because in those days you couldn't get a job if you didn't speak English. That's just the way it was in those days. So, but we were the only Italians I knew. I didn't know any other Italians. I mean, there weren't that many.
Really? Oh,
No,
wow.
not in Silver Spring, Maryland. There were hardly any Italians. So the only Italians I knew were my immediate relatives. So when we get together at my grandmother's on Sunday, that was when the Italian thing kicked in.
You say the Italian thing. What was that about? Was it a
Well,
bunch of, so it must have been a lot of food and a lot of talking. I
a
know
lot
that's
of
what it was
food
like
and a
in my
lot of talking.
house.
A lot of food and a lot of talking. And then, you know, it was like the old days. Like the kids sat at one table, adults sat at one table. Then when they were done, the women went off to the kitchen. The guys stayed at the table, drank wine and played cards and like yell at each other. You know, that's how it
Oh,
was.
there's no doubt about it. But
Yeah.
you, even as a little kid, right? You loved music.
Oh,
You
yeah.
were always playing the piano. Tell me about that because your musical career honestly just started back then.
Yes. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was on a Sunday. And the whole
Mm.
family was in the dining room. And I was sitting on top of what they had in those days was a combination of a TV like this big, a radio, and a record player. And I was
Oh,
sitting on top, and I put this record on, Italian record, and I know what the hell I was singing, but I just was singing nonetheless. And they were in the other room going, "Oh, look, the Frank is singing some more." And so I just started singing. It was just a natural, it just was there, you know. It's like a kid that goes out the first time and hits a baseball, knocks it out of the thing. It just was there for me. And that's all
yeah.
I want. And from that point, that's all I ever wanted to do. Then Elvis came out a little after that, and we all watched him on TV. And I said, "Man, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life." And I said, "And that's what I want to be. I didn't want to be a fireman, didn't want to be a cop, didn't want to be that. That's what I wanted to be, whether in a band or, but I wanted to be Elvis." So, I mean, the three things in my life that sum my music up is Frank Sinatra, Elvis, and the Beatles,
Mm.
and other
So
stuff in between.
so once you jumped off that record player when you were a little kid, let's cut a couple of years later when you were performing, right? You were performing in different clubs. Where were you doing that? And
Well,
who were
that
some of
would
the people
be
that you worked with?
that would be in Philadelphia. So that's about maybe 8 years later. I was 15. Of course, I was underage, but who was looking? And I'd play like, you know, we play in those days like frat houses. We play college dances, sock hops, stuff like that. You know, because we were 15 years old. I couldn't even drive. You know what I mean? So usually someone's father drove, which is really bizarre for a rock band. We thought we were really cool. We thought we
That's
like,
pretty funny.
yeah, we thought we were like the Lovin' Spoonful of the Birds. And no, then your parents like drop you off, you know. So there was it wasn't like we were picking up girls or anything. We were like kids, you know. And so
Was this the group called Valentine? Because
no, that
you had
was
a couple of
yeah,
was that
three Valentines. This was a group called the American Tragedy. And
ah
I had
if
no idea that it was a famous book by Theodore Dreiser. I had no idea. You know, I was
ah
15. I was reading, you know, Billy Budd, you know, I mean, what the hell I know. So anyway, and so that group was great. We won the Battle of the Bands. It was a really good group. I mean, that was my start. From there, it was all over. That was it. I mean, it's American
all over.
Tragedy, all over as far as anything else. You know,
Hmm.
done. In other words, after I saw the Beatles, okay, first of all, it was Elvis. I was in. Then when I saw the Beatles, I think my mother said, "Father, son, we've lost them forever." In other words, as far as anything about with corporate or any kind of real job was out of the question. I
Right.
just wasn't cut out for it. There, you know, I wasn't cut out to sit in an office and take orders from someone I didn't like. I just wasn't cut out
Hey,
for it. So I
please,
was
I know what that was like. I mean, I realized that also when I was 16 years old. It's like,
yeah,
no way. I think I did 3 days in an office once and I called my mom and I said, please come pick me up. This will never happen again. I was
no,
doing bookkeeper work. It's like, oh, come on.
no, no,
So I get it. And I get the way those people, our parents and relatives sort of
no,
push you in a certain direction because let's
yeah,
face it, coming from another country, they
yeah.
just wanted you to have a sensible job and a sensible paycheck, right?
Yeah, they wanted education. Oh, you're going to. I said, I don't. There's nothing for me there. This is what I want to do.
Right.
So there was a little back and forth. Not so much my
Yeah.
mother. My mother was cool. She couldn't care less. What if I wanted to do music or something? And my real
Mm.
father was, he didn't care. This is my stepfather who was the real drag. You know, my real father was like, hairdresser. He didn't care. You know, just like, you know.
Right. Your biological dad was a hairdresser, and that's how he met mom, right? Because mom was
Right.
also a hairdresser.
Right.
Your stepdad wasn't particularly supportive of the music career,
No,
right? I
not
mean,
at all.
wasn't there a time where he said, "Hey, if you want a guitar, go and work and get it"? Tell us the rest of the story. What
Well,
happened?
I went out and worked all summer. I was 15 because I had the band, but we didn't have a bass player. So we had
Right.
2 guitar players and a drummer. So I would just take the treble off my guitar and play it like it was a bass. So I figured, well, you know, Paul McCartney played bass. Why not? So I worked all summer. I found this beautiful bass, this clearer bass that kind of looked like Paul McCartney's violin bass. And I think maybe it was 120 bucks, maybe, I don't know. But I worked all summer. Shows how much we got paid all summer for like 120 bucks. And I went down and I bought it. I was so proud of it. It's the first thing I really ever bought. And I brought it home and I showed it to my mother. She goes, "Oh, look at that." Then I showed it to my stepfather. He goes, "I didn't say you could get that." I said, wait a second. You said if I worked, I could get, I didn't say you could get that. And he took it away. I never got to play it. He took it away and it sat in the closet. And it was absolutely devastating to me. Devastating. So after a while, things tore down. When he go out of town, I take the bass and practice. And then after that blew over. And then at that point, by 17, 18, I could care less what he thought, you know, because I was on.
Yeah, it didn't take away your dream, that's for sure. But yeah,
No,
I mean,
he tried to break me, couldn't do it. Tried to.
yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your brother at the time. So your
Yeah,
brother is what, 2 years older than you, Sylvester?
4.
4. You mentioned in the film and many times he didn't exactly have a musical talent the way you did. What was he doing at the time? Was he writing films and trying to make movies at
Oh
home? What
no,
was he
no,
doing?
no, no. He was just getting in fights, mischief, chasing girls around, playing sports. He had no. There was nothing in the genes saying, "Oh, this guy's going to be like really a major part of the motion picture." Not one bit.
So
And
when did all that happen? Like, how did
I
that
think
happen?
it happened when he went away to college. I think that's when it kind of
Ah,
happened, you know, because that was a way to meet women. And of course,
right.
that was his thing, his MO. And so he started doing that. And then he came back and went to the University of Miami and was in the drama course and clubs and lived down there. And then from there, he moved to New York and I mean, you know, people think, you know, guys like Rocky just all of a sudden one day appeared, but he did do plays off Broadway. He did a lot of theater, a lot, you know. So I mean, it's not like he just was this hunky guy and all of a sudden he got in there. But he paid his dues in New York in theater, and we're all both self-taught. We have, I mean, I didn't even graduate high school. I mean, I went back at 23 just to get a GED, so people wouldn't think I'm too much of an idiot. But anyway, I didn't graduate high school, and he was a terrible student as well. So it's like we weren't from like, oh, we're from the neighborhood theater of the arts or of Juilliard. We didn't come from that. It was just God-given natural gift, you know, for whatever.
So he writes this film, and I appreciate that you don't mind talking about your brother because I think it's so interesting. And it was this little film that nobody really thought would do
Right.
much of anything, right? Tell me about your involvement in it,
Well,
about the song that you wrote.
well, my involvement was they were doing the movie. My brother knew that I used to sing on the street corner, a cappella music, you know, like the Platters and Del Vikings, all the a cappella groups, kind of a little before the Beatles came out. And then it was like
Ah,
doo-wop groups, Dion and the Belmonts, Little Anthony and the Imperials, stuff like that. So that's their songs we would sing. Go to the dances, go out on the balcony and sing. So he knew of that. So he thought Rocky it'd be great if I wrote a song with a doo-wop outfit out in the back. So I wrote the song "Take You Back," and he showed up in Philadelphia, and we sang the song, thinking nothing of it. You know, we didn't get. I think we got paid 140 bucks each, which was but we didn't have any money. You understand? I lived in Trenton,
I
New
get it.
Jersey, with my band, and we used to play 160 minutes of music a night for like 125 bucks. Split that
Split,
five ways,
right.
and the manager takes 20% off the top. So, right? So we make like a grand total of maybe $18, $19 a night for 160 minutes worth of music. So when we got the idea for 140, that was like a month's work for us. So we were good. Yeah. So we were good with that stuff. We didn't make that much money.
I love that there is a photo of you and your brother right outside of a movie theater. Wasn't it at the premiere of Rocky?
Right.
You know, before anyone went in, you and your brother were sort of unknown entities. And by the time everybody came out, what happened?
Well, that was the afternoon of. We went in there, my brother and I went in there, and we're watching the movie, and all of a sudden, all these people were starting to walk out. And I looked over to him, and his face was just crestfallen. I go, oh, man, because I knew this thing was great. I knew it was special. Well, 5 hours later, that evening or whatever, is the premiere. That was the afternoon show. And you could hear the cheering and screaming across Third Avenue from the theater. So there you go.
Wow.
And that
so
was
how did your life, Frank Stallone's life, change after that? Because that was a phenomenal record. I love that. You know, Take Me Back. It was playing all over the clubs in New York. It was playing everywhere.
It didn't change my life that much because I was living in some dump in Trenton, New Jersey for $80. And I had my band. I mean, we forgot I had my band. All of a sudden, some interest came out. Because Rocky came out, was huge. And then I had my band. And then all of a sudden, we start doing these big TV shows like Dinah Shore. We did Merv Griffin. We did Mike Douglas. We did Midnight Special, Jim Neighbor Show, all these shows. As the movie was out. In those days, movies stayed in theaters a long time, not like
they did. Yeah.
I mean, I remember Serpico stayed in that theater 6 months. I mean, so that's how it was back then. So we wrote it. I mean, we didn't really have any clue what we were doing. We were young guys in a rock band trying to get a record deal. And I noticed when I go on the TV shows, oh, you guys sound great, wonderful. Frank, come over and talk to us. So what's it like being Rocky's brother? So in other words, I was just there. I don't think they gave a hoot about the music. I was there to give them information because they couldn't get him on the show or whatever. So I got tired of that after a while, And then after the whole Rocky thing stopped, the group broke up. We had no money, couldn't get any gigs, and I was out. Went from Dinah Shore and Mike Douglas to playing a place called the Ground Round for $30 a night by myself, or the Bristol Motor Court Inn. So that's what I would do. I mean, there was no way to go. There was no end in sight because I couldn't do anything else. So this is what I love to do, but this is what I had to do. So I went from being a big celebrity in New Jersey to it's like a chump. Like, oh, what happened to him? What a loser. He went from
You want to hear a little thing about me? I loved your song so much. I would blast it in my house, but I had never seen the film. So there you go. To me, you were the star of the family because I love that song so much. I hadn't seen Rocky until many years later. For whatever reason, I just wasn't that interested in it. Then I was a kid, but the music really stuck with me because I just thought it was a great dance tune. It really got me going.
Thank you. It was fun. It was fun. Look,
yeah.
And then, I finally, at one point, my brother felt, I was all depressed. I was going through some psychological things, and I was really, I was just trying to find myself. I said, I just feel like lost, because I liked having a band, because, I came from a kind of a screwed up family. So a band to me was like a kind of a family, like a camaraderie, like a kind of a cocoon around you. And so when that broke up, after all this highlight of Rocky and traveling around the country, to absolutely sitting in an apartment in East Windsor, New Jersey, after I moved up to $100 a month apartment, it's just nothing. It's
depressing. Let's call it what it is. It's
yeah.
depressing, right?
I
So
was
then what?
depressed.
Did your brother, you talked to your brother, you said that you had some, you were just feeling depressed. You're really low and just
Well,
feeling
yeah.
terrible about yourself. So didn't you move out to LA then?
After a while, I did. Yeah, I went to the Carrier Clinic in Princeton because I was very
Uh,
depressed, and they had a new thing they were doing called biofeedback. And I
uh,
wasn't depressed like I can't. I'm not like I wasn't that depressed. Just that even though I was functioning, there was just like a gray cloud over my head, and I was sad, and I was just like because I felt like okay, I'm 28. I've put in 12 years of my life into this at that point, and I don't have anything to show for it. So Sly was big, and and believe it or not, he paid for the doctor because I didn't have any money. I couldn't. So I was on lithium and all that stuff to keep myself maintained. Of course, I got off it later. So then one day he said, why don't you just come to California? What are you doing there? There's nothing there for you. So
mm,
I got in my car with my manager and whatever little belongings we had. We drove from Trenton, New Jersey to Los Angeles. And it was really great. That's when CBs were really big. So we're sitting there talking on the CB, yeah, hey, I was looking over your shoulder, pal, that's stupid stuff, And so
right.
I came out to LA and I lived in his house, and it was kind of great because he was in between his marriage, so he went back to his wife. So I had this whole house in Bel Air to myself. I didn't know Bel Air was the most expensive neighborhood in the country. So when girls would say, so where do you live? I go, Bel Air. All of a sudden it was like, oh, wow, man. I had no idea. I was such a hick, came down, I had hair down to here, like flannel shirt. I had no idea. I mean, I was so broke. I had nothing. My brother gave me $50 a week. And then I lived in the house. And then I became a stand-in in Rocky 3. And so
You were a stand-in. Okay.
Yeah, so I made some money. So it was just weird, to be on stage most of my life with this great band, getting accolades, and then all of a sudden, playing it for $30 a night, going through the mental stress, and then being a stand-in. It's like it was even worse. Hey, there's Rocky stand-in. What do you do? I said, well, I'm stand. So in Rocky 3, but I made some money to put away, nothing great. But I did 3 things in Rocky 3. I fought Mr. T, I fought my brother, and I sang. So I was like the singing heavy punching bag, but that's okay. That's okay. You have to have resiliency for this business, as you know. This is not for
I
the
do.
faint-hearted.
No, and also it's the artist way, right? There are times that you're high and there are times that you
Yeah.
aren't. And you just happen to go through it with an incredibly famous brother and you had no idea that was even going to happen. Let's talk a little
Absolutely.
bit about working with Travolta in Staying Alive. How
Mm.
did that happen? I mean,
Well,
because that was I love that song too. Tell me the song. I
far
loved
from
it.
over. Far from over.
That was great. And that song at one point, right, topped the charts,
Yeah.
was #1, beating out Billy Joel and also Michael Jackson's Thriller. That's pretty incredible. How
And
did
and
that
Lion
make you
and,
feel?
and Lionel Richie and the Police. I mean,
Come on.
it was short lived, but I'll take it. I mean, it was.
I would take it. I mean,
Yeah, of
look,
course.
that's your talent. Look, Frank, that's your talent. Nobody can take that away from you, right? Like you may have even felt down even when that happened, but that's yours and nobody could ever take it
Now
away,
that
right?
was
You
on
got
top.
yeah,
Deborah, I was on top of the world
good.
when that happened. I mean, that I'd never. I mean, from just all the years and the ups and downs and the forwards and the backwards and the broken dreams and the promises and the lies, to all of a sudden be involved in a project, the sequel to Saturday Night Fever. And I wrote
Yeah,
a lot of songs for that, a lot of
yeah.
songs, and they were all rejected. And because
Mhm.
it was the Bee Gees, obviously I knew that, but Sly said, just go write some stuff. I guess he was just trying to soothe the pain. Go write some stuff. So I did. And then when
Yeah.
the Bee Gees decided they didn't want to do the movie, they didn't want to do it in the beginning anyway. They didn't really want to. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, my songs came in, and they liked them. Thanks to John. I mean, John was a nice guy. John's a gentle soul. He's a nice person, and
John is a terrific. Yeah, he's amazing.
He's a
Well,
very nice guy.
Yeah,
Huh?
I mean, he supported you, but it was also a terrific song, which, by the way, got a Grammy nomination and a Golden Globe.
Yeah.
I mean, I realize you didn't get the big nod from the Academy Award, but sometimes that happens. I
But
mean,
you
to
notice
me, to get
that's the
what's
only
that?
curse word. That's the only curse word in my documentary when I talk about that. That still bugs me because it was so political and so stupid. I mean, it was a #1 record, and
Yeah.
everyone's songs get in there except they take mine out and put a more obscure song from Yentl that no one ever heard. And I went, "Oh, come on, man, really?"
Hey, you know what? Let me ask you this. Do you sometimes think, especially back then, it was a little bit of Italian prejudice? Because there was an awful lot of that. I
Could
mean, let's
be.
face it, most of the roles went to, Goomba, like,
Yeah,
the tough guy. There weren't a lot of like really sweet, softy kind of Italian men in roles. And even the women, I mean, they were sort of, gum chewing and rough.
yeah, 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 yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think um, I think it was just pure politics. It had nothing to do with the music. It was pure politics. Listen, the Bergmans are very noted songwriters, great songwriters, written some of the greatest
Wonderful. Yeah.
songs. And they're, Barbara Streisand's best friends, and they wrote this music in Yentl. I thought, listen, I didn't think I was going to win, but I would love to have the nomination. It would have been nice to have that on your thing, Academy Award nominated. And didn't get it, and it was just so ridiculous because there were 5 songs the whole time, same 5 songs for the Golden Globes, same 5 songs for the Grammys, and all of a sudden the Oscars come out, same 5 songs, but they take mine out and put a totally song that went to like 99 on the chart on. I
Oh,
go,
I get it. That would be terribly disappointing. But to me, what I got out of this is, hey, you got a Grammy nomination and a Golden
yeah,
Globe. I don't know.
oh, I'm
That,
okay. Oh, I'm
yeah,
okay.
you're okay.
Believe me, I'm thankful. But I would just like to have that because it would have been cool to have 2 brothers, one that's been nominated for acting and one nominated for music. It would just been really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's talk a little bit about the films that you've worked with, right? Um, Terror in Beverly Hills.
Oh
That always
God.
keeps coming up. Okay, well, you got to talk about it, right? Barfly
Yeah.
with Mickey Rourke. Hudson Hawk, Tombstone. You've done a
Yeah.
lot. Tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about, your film work.
Well, I've done like 77 films, and a lot of them are really bad. I mean, I'll be the first to admit some were just terrible. But in between, you do some gems like Barfly, Tombstone, Fred Claus, get some good ones in there. But here's the weird thing. All of a sudden, these people come up to me and, they'll go, "Hey, man, loved you in Terror in Beverly Hills." I go, "Are you kidding? This movie was
Well,
bizarre." But it's become like film noir. It's like, I don't get it. It's like Ed Wood. These people just, that I don't know. And all, but you know what? If they like it, I never um, get insulted by it because if they like it, for me to go, "Oh, well, that's a piece of crap," I would never say that because that's insulting to them. To
hmm
them, maybe they like it. A lot of people like weird, bad movies. I mean,
well,
it's a cult. Yeah, I don't mind.
um,
I like some lousy movies myself.
couple of little wonderful nuggets that I got out of the film. You had cufflinks that were Frank Sinatra's
Yeah,
cufflinks. How
yeah.
did you get those?
They were a gift from a girl, and they,
How did she
yeah,
get them?
I
Good
don't know.
heavens.
Maybe she dated Frank. I don't know, but she got them, and I wore them. And I'm sure Frank had a lot of cufflinks, but I mean, it was just
Wow.
pretty cool, because I knew Frank. Well, I didn't know him well, but I've been around him a lot. I don't
Mm.
know how well you know Frank Sinatra when you're a young, snot-nosed kid, but I mean,
How did wait. You said you were around him a lot. How did that happen? I mean, because look, I can't exactly say, oh yeah, I was around Frank Sinatra. I mean, this is not a normal thing. How did that happen in your life?
well, I met him. We had the same manager.
Ah.
For me for a short time,
Mhm.
and the first time I met him was at the Cerritos Music Center. I'd seen him play before, but I'd never met him. And I walked, and it was the first time I was so smitten. I was like, "Oh my God, man, this is." I'm around famous people all the time. I said, "This is old Blue Eyes."
Frank.
Believe it, yeah. And so I walked, and here's a picture of that first time I met Frank. Here you go.
Oh, I love it. I think we
right
could see
there.
it pretty. Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah,
That's a
and that was
great
it.
shot.
Yeah,
What was he?
and
How did he treat you? How
he was nice.
probably
You
like
know, we went,
yeah,
well, son, how are you? But he was getting ready to go on stage, but he was fine. You know, and
yeah,
but I was really like googie eyed. I go, oh my god! And I've met a lot of famous people, but that's Frank. It would have been the same with Elvis because these are people that are ingrained in the landscape of your life. You know, their faces are ingrained. You know, and so when you meet them, you're and I met Paul McCartney, and that was pretty cool. And I met George Harrison and Ringo. The one I didn't meet, I would love to met would have been John. But you
yeah.
know, it's wonderful. You know, I mean, they're humans like everyone else. I mean, they're just famous.
They're they're humans like everyone else. They're just superhuman, right? I mean, I get you.
Yeah, superhuman. Yeah.
To
So,
me, Paul McCartney is like God, so
oh
I
yeah,
get that. Maybe someday you'll play with him.
wouldn't that
Be in
be?
the band. Just oh my
Wouldn't that
God.
be?
Hey, reach out. I think your agent's listening. It never hurts to
I
reach
don't
out,
have an
right?
agent.
No. Well, your publicist, right?
My publicists are great. Lee and all the group over at PMK, Rogers and Cowan PMK. No, I don't have a music agent. I don't have an act. I have nothing. And
Yeah.
it's you know, and so people ask me how hard is the business. I said, okay, I'm Frank Stallone. I've done a lot of stuff. I can't get an agent. You're like Joe Schmo from Weehawken. Forget it. The business now has changed to a point where it's really not even fun anymore. It's an ugly business now. It used to be a great, fun. It's just gotten so everyone's so touchy. Everyone's so this. You can't say this. You can't do that. You can't go where. It's like you go on a movie set. You look like the mummy. You know, you're wrapped up. It's like no,
You know
really.
what though? But you've performed in so many places. You've been in over what 100 appearances on TV and film. I
Yeah.
consider your career an enormous success, Frank. To
Yeah.
me, and now also whenever it's open again, who knows? You perform at a very distinguished place here in LA called Vibratos. I mean,
Yes.
anyone worth their salt, right? It performs at Vibratos. So
Yeah.
tell me what that's like. You probably get quite a crowd there.
Yes. We were. I've been playing there longer than anybody since 2004 when it first
Yeah.
opened.
Ah.
And it's Herb Albert from the Tijuana brass fame. Herb Albert's a great owned A&M Records, you know. So he had this club, and it's made specifically for music. It's a
Oh,
great
it's
club.
wonderful.
That's a great club.
Wonderful place.
So
Yeah.
we played there, and we've broken the attendance record there many times. And
Hmm.
it's my home base here. You know, I mean, this is when I'm in town. This is where we play because we pull a great audience, and we can, you know, we can do our shtick on stage. You know, we do it, and it's kind of cool in a way because it's located where a lot of celebrities come in because it's located in that. I mean, I sang there one night, and the guy goes, "Frank, I don't want to get you upset, nervous, but Tom Jones is sitting up front." I go, "Oh, Christ!" I said,
Okay,
"Okay."
well, stop. Can you do something like, "Hey, Tom Jones is in the audience. Can we have you come up?" Is that the kind of thing you guys can do, or no? Like you can't
No,
embarrass him
they
or
told
whatever.
me Tom Jones was in the audience.
Right, but then could you call him up on
Oh
stage
no,
or no?
I would never do that. I hate that when they
Okay,
do that with me. So,
really?
well,
Wow.
because I'm not prepared. It depends if it's like just a shot and beer place, but you know, I mean, Tom Jones, he's like Sir Tom, you know. So I'm sitting there doing the show, and at the end he comes, "Oh, Frank, love the show, mate. I love it. It's great, you know." And then, but I'd met Tom before. I've met him before, and he comes up to Sly's house. We'd watch the fights. He and yeah, who's the other guy? I forget. But anyway, and it was great. And you know, a lot of people have been there. Chubby Checker, Frankie Avalon, who's in my documentary. Gene Simmons comes in. I mean, a lot of people come in there, you know, and
Oh,
that's
it's
what I like.
phenomenal.
Yeah,
It's one of the things I miss most about this COVID is just attending performances like
me
that
too.
at Vibrato, right? You
Yeah,
especially, you perform, good heavens.
I
But you've
miss it.
also performed with some incredible people before they were even famous, right? There was Hall and Oates. First it
Hmm.
was Hall, then it was Oates. They weren't even famous at the time. Bruce Springsteen, didn't you open for him before he was really Bruce
Yeah,
Springsteen?
yeah. It was. Matter of fact, when I pulled up, walked into the club, they had like those like kind of white boards where they write the menu on it, like with like a kind of a marker, and it said, appearing tonight, Bruce Springsteen. And,
Bruce,
right? And he was unknown. No one even knew who he was. So
Hmm.
that was kind of interesting. And then, of course, after that, he just went on to phenomenal fame. But that's what I wanted. I mean, in other words, I didn't get into this business for the money. I never did.
No, that's because you're an artist. That's because you're an artist, Frank. That's why.
I loved it. But I would have loved to play like 70,000 seats or stuff. But I got to tell you, I get the same goof, the same thrill playing to 100 people as I do 20,000 people, because it's ingrained in your soul. And someone told me a story once, I never forgot it. And I'm also one that doesn't miss gigs. I'm always on time. I'd have to be almost half dead not to make the gig. Okay. Mm. And I remember once there was a place when I lived in Trenton, New Jersey, Trenton War Memorial. I'll make it real quick. And it was the worst blizzard in probably 30 years in New Jersey. And Louis Armstrong was playing the War Memorial that night. Obviously, wow. he got there early or whatever. And the promoter said, Satch, you don't have to do the job tonight. There's only like 8 people in the audience. He goes, wait a second. He goes, mean 8 people came out in the storm to see Satch? He goes, no, I'm going on. And he went on and did his whole show like there was 2,000 people in there.
Wow.
Proved to me, when I heard that, that's what being a pro is. And I've been really sick. I mean, I used to open for Don Rickles, and Don is from that old school. Like, so right. And I was and I very rarely get sick, but for some reason I was just dying. Dying. And they said, okay, you're playing San Manuel Casino tonight with Rickles. I said, okay. And I said, if I cancel it, he'll never work with me again, because those guys would go on if they had a gunshot wound, So I was there, and I was laid out in the back of the station wagon as they drove all the way out to the casino. I was in the hotel. I was comatose. So I got to the casino, and I was like, oh God. They said, Frank, 5 minutes. And all of a sudden I went on stage, and people said, man, that was one of your best shows, Frank. And then of course I went back to the dressing room and
okay, Frank.
Muscle memory.
That it's the way of an artist. I mean, somehow you can just get up the energy and the adrenaline.
Yep.
Because you're a performer, Frank, and you're a professional, and you're a performer, through and through. I really want people to make sure that they go and watch this documentary, which comes out on the 19th. So it's coming up this coming weekend, the 19th. Before I let you go, though, tell me a little bit about your relationship with your brother. I know that you're close. He's been a good friend to you. I love when you do his accent, because it's so unique.
Sometimes, I talk to him all the time. He moved to Florida.
Yeah.
And he loves it there. Well, he always liked Florida. Went to school there, but he's always, he's a Cancer. He's a water sign, so he likes being by the water. And it's beautiful. And the girls go, I don't want to move to Florida. Now they don't want to come back to LA. The girls love it. His daughters.
Would you go down there? Because there's a lot of gigs down there you can play out. Yeah.
I'm thinking about hitting down to Florida. I kind of like it. I mean, when I was down there about a few weeks ago, I didn't see one piece of trash in Palm Beach. Not one homeless, nothing. Not one tent, spotless. And I kind of like that. I like the self-pride and stuff. But as we get older, we get along better. As we get older, I think we like I said again, I lost 5 people that are in that movie that were dear friends of mine. I've lost all my best friends, and every day, like when I get a phone call, I just shudder. Like, oh God, it's gonna be bad news. It's just part of circle of life. So as you get older, you kind of cherish more of your friendships and stuff like that. And it's this world, really, I'm 70 years old, so I don't feel it. But
no. And wait a minute, you've got that Italian skin going. You sure don't look it. I mean, nobody ever looks their age who's Italian. I'm telling you, at least 20 years younger. So zip it. You sure don't look it. If you said 50, I'd be like, oh yeah, of course.
Well, I'll take that. I'll take that all day. But the thing is, it's just that, my dear mother died a month short of 99, and she still drove. She exercised every day. She practiced her piano every day, religiously. And I think that's where my brother and I get what the Jewish people call the chutzpah, to go out and just do it. my mother goes, you know what? It's not easy. She used to tell me, she goes, Frank, it's very hard being this age. Everything's an effort. You know, and my dad lived almost to 92.
Oh, so you've got a lot of years ahead of you, buddy. Your
Well,
mother was incredible, right?
yeah,
Everybody knew your mom.
yeah,
She was into astrology. Is that
yeah.
correct?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
big time.
I was sorry to hear of her passing, which was not long ago. I know that.
No, I would love
I'm sorry about
for her.
that.
I would love for her to have seen the movie. That would have been really fantastic. But you know, I mean, Danny Aiello passed, who I loved. My agent John LaRocca passed. I mean, he was a guy that swam like all day, swam every day. He was watching TV, just boom. And then my first drummer, Mark, I talked to him 10 minutes before he died in the hospital. And it's just like,
Yeah.
God, you said, man, all the history, all the years, it's just boom. And then, you know,
Well,
Russ Regan. But, you know, the thing is, now they're immortalized forever in my movie. How
yeah,
about
the film is fantastic. And again, I want to
Thank
tell
you.
everybody, comes out the 19th. You can get it on Amazon Prime, iTunes, Google, anywhere else where I can, tell people where to go. And let's remember, it's called Stallone, Frank,
Think
that
that
is.
is. Yeah.
Let's remember that. We're talking Frank Stallone.
Yeah.
And remember, you were the first one in the family that I thought was incredible. So you were
Thank
you were the
Deborah.
star to me. Yeah.
Thank you,
And you
hon.
st-
I very
and you
appreciate
s-
it.
wait a minute before I let you go. What about a greatest hits album? Do we have one of those that are coming out?
Well,
Maybe.
maybe. I mean, the record business is kind of in a flux right now, but maybe. You never know.
Yeah, because especially those old hits that you
Yeah.
resurrect. You're really fantastic when you do that as well, right? The old
Well, you
hits.
know, people can always go to, you know, cdbaby.com. All my music is there. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm looking
Well,
forward
Frank,
to it.
I really enjoyed talking to you. Good luck with the film. Will you keep us updated on how it's doing?
I sure will. Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I think, look, people, the phone is ringing off the hook, Frank. People are getting in touch with you already. So,
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. Deborah, thank you so much, darling.
yeah, thanks everybody, and thank you, Frank Stallone, and everybody for being here for the Little Italy of Los Angeles podcast. You can find us on Facebook, on YouTube. We go IGTV with our show, and then we push it out there on all audio platforms for your podcast. So just look us up, Little Italy of Los Angeles. I'm your host, Deborah Zara Kobylt. Thank you again, Frank Stallone. And
Ciao.
please look at the film Stallone, Frank, that is. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah.
Bye-bye.